Okay. So in routing, right? So the main question is they just ask what is routing. Okay. So what is the need of routing? But uh, when you're answering the routing, you have to tell with some examples. Okay. So basically, Angular is a single page application. I think did I ask the routing questions in the mock interview? I
No,
think
you didn't.
no.
You asked something, but I think I skipped it mostly. I don't remember, but you asked some question.
Okay, okay. I think I asked a generic question what is routing, but I think you explained
Oh
it.
yeah, I think yeah, routing I explained. Yeah, what is routing definition I told you.
Exactly, exactly. So I
Yeah.
remember that. So because Angular is a single page application, right? So basically there must be some kind of navigation between the entire application. Because without that navigation, single page applications are useless, right? So
Mm.
if you have navigation, then only you can basically navigate to different parts of the application and explore the features inside your application using the routing. So there is one tricky thing happened in Angular routing. That is basically in order to update content inside the page, it is not necessary to change the route also in the URL, right? So you can basically fetch that content and update here. But Angular, what it does is it will change the route also here in the browser, because in the browsers the history will be remembered for each time when you visit a URL inside a website, or if you're visiting multiple websites also, it will keep the history of the pages you visited. So when you basically go to one link, let's say this link, and when you click on the back button of the browser, still it will go to the previous link, like or previous page, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Angular is single page application, so there is no previous page, or there is no next page. Everything happens in the same page, right? That is the reason Angular updates this uh, path here, or this URL here, so that browser records that route, and whenever you click on the back button or forward button, it will again go to that route. So based on this update here in the route, it will go to that respective component. Okay, that is the important thing we should know when it comes to Angular routing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you understood, right? So
Yeah.
just browser records every change happens to the URL. Okay, so whenever it records, basically it will keep a history of all these links you visited in the page. So when you click on back or forward buttons here, it will just go to that route, and it doesn't know what happens here. Browser doesn't know what happens here, but when you go to that path, Angular will realize there will be some event raised, right? So there will be some event raised, and Angular will send that routing information to that component, and basically you'll render that respective component. Okay, so this entire thing happens. This is a little magic in Angular. So if it is not updating this path, right? So these buttons will not work, because if you click on back, it will go. It will be there where it is, like this domain itself. It will be there. If you go forward, still it will be on the same page, and it will basically refresh the page, and it will go to home page or some random page, right? So it will not update. It will not go back to the exact route or exact component from where you came or from where you are going to. Okay, so that is the reason it will update. And as we discussed, basically routing is to navigate across your application, and that is the main question they'll ask. And the second question they ask about is the root params. Okay, so root params or query params or path params. Okay, root params is a generic word. Path params and query params is specific terminologies. Okay, path params means the parameter embedded in the URL or embedded in the path, whereas query parameter is it is basically appended to your path. Okay, this is your path till here, whatever I highlighted in the browser, and after question mark, whatever comes, that is a query param. Okay, so if you are sending success, if you are basically configuring success as a query parameter, then here success will come, and success equals to true. Okay, and another question you can expect is, how can you navigate to different links in the code or in the template? Like, how can you navigate to a different route using the template? Like that means the inside your HTML template. And how can you navigate to your URL or a path using TypeScript code? Okay, so this is template navigation using the router link directive, and this is your TypeScript navigation. You have to write a method, and in that method you can use the router service to navigate to this path. Okay,
Yeah.
this way you have to call this method from your HTML based on some user clicks or user hovers and whatever event you want to handle. So whenever that event happens, you can call this method, and whenever this method is called, this will be executed and it will navigate to home. Okay, this is another question you can expect. Okay, how can you navigate in the template? How can you navigate in the code? And after that, how can you handle root params? Okay, basically you have to subscribe to a params variable or params subscribe params observable to get the parameters. Okay, and the same way query params also, how can you get, or how can you receive? Yeah. And another generic question, mostly will not ask, right? But people will not ask. But one generic question is, this is just for your knowledge purpose, right? So how, if I refresh the page in Angular application, the status will be lost because it's a single page application, right? You're in some random page, and if you refresh that page, most of the times, if application is not implemented properly, the status will be lost. Status means the where you are on the on which component or which page you are in, right? So that status will be lost, and it will go to by default the home page, because in case of any error happens in the navigation, Angular will redirect to home page, right? But how can you restore that page? That is one generic question. Okay, if I am in this path and if I refresh, so it must restore my entire page. So that is one generic question. So how can you refresh? See, when I refresh, it directly went to the home page, right? So that path is lost. I think there is a network problem, but let me go to routing. Okay. Okay. If I refresh, still it is restoring to the same page, right? Any page. If I refresh, still it is restoring to the same page. So if properly not implemented, then it will basically it'll go to the home page. Okay, so how can you restore that? That is one question I can expect. So to restore, basically whenever you receive a query param or path param inside your component, then you have to call your backend service to get data for that ID or for that query param, and then just render it in your application. Okay, that is how you can restore the page. So everything happens again. For example, when you refresh the page, right, all the vendor JS, the main JS, and whatever Angular build files generated, right? So they'll be downloaded again from the server, and Angular will construct this page from scratch, and then it will send any root parameters or path parameters are there from the URL to that component. And once you receive those variables in that component, you have to call the backend service, respective backend service, in the ng onInit method, because onInit method will be called when component is initialized, right? So when, let's say, this component is getting initialized, it will call that ng onInit, and the ng onInit method, you will receive this whatever parameters you're passing from the URL, and immediately you have to call the backend API and get data and restore whatever data we have seen previously. So that way you can basically restore the page. Okay, but from looking the user point of view, only we don't see much difference. Okay, just we refresh the page and we see the page is getting restored, but in the background all these things will happen. Okay, the
Okay.
entire page will be reconstructed, and you will get your path params or the query params, and with those you can call the backend API. For example, student details API, you can call the API and pass the student ID coming from the path param and get the student details and then just render it. Okay, it will happen in the split second, so user will not see any difference, right? So it will happen like magic. So that is one generic question, but they will not ask this question how to restore a page or how to restore a state of a page. But in rare times, in like many rare scenarios, they'll ask this question. But this is good to know information. And we saw router navigation, and yeah. So how to render? How Angular renders the components? Like Angular, how Angular knows where to render the root components or configured components. Okay, so wherever router outlet is there, it will try to render your components configured in the routing configuration or root configuration file. Okay, and wherever you see this one, that means there we can go to the root module and see there is something defined for this component. Okay, it can be in any component. So most of the times we see this in the app component, right? Router outlet.
Yeah.
But let's say in order to render child routes, then that router outlet must be in the child component. For example, if we take this example, so this path will be this component, product list component will be rendered in app component because it is the parent path, right? There's no children here. And if you see here, we have children also, children routes also. In the children routes, we have overview and specs component. Okay, so for this component to render, we should have the router outlet inside app component because this is a root the parent route, sorry. And whereas this one is having the children, right? Children routes. So in order to render these children routes, we should have the router outlet inside this product details component. Okay. In the product details component, wherever you see the router outlet, these routes will be rendered inside this component in the router outlet section. Okay. So did you get it, or should I show the example? I think I have some example ready.
Okay.
Okay. So this is, assume that this is one route. Okay, that empty route. Okay. This is contact us route. Okay. And this is product route. Okay, I have three routes. If I click on this, home component will render. If I click on this, contact us will render. If I click on this, the product component will render. And in my product, I have three subsections, three tabs: product 1, product 2, product 3. Okay, if I click on product 1, product 1 details will come. If I click on product 2 details will come. And if I click on product 3 details will come. Okay, but it is not affecting the other routes. Okay, these two are entirely different. So from here, if I click on this one, it will just render home component. And if I go back, it will render my I think third product. Okay, this one. Now how this is coming? Okay, so now we have two router outlets here. I'll show in the code, but here we have two router outlets. One is this one. Okay, so this one, whatever I highlighted, right? So this one is in the app component. Okay, and another router outlet is this one. This is in the product component. Okay, so if you go to the code, we have app component. So app component, I have three links, right? So one is the home, second is contact us, third one is product. And here I'm rendering these three components. One is the home component, second is contact us, and third one is product component. I'm rendering in app component. But where if I go to the home component and contact us component, there is nothing. They are just straightforward component. But if I go to the product component, this is my product component. Okay. In this, if you go to the HTML, I can see the 3 buttons: product 1, product 2, product 3. Okay. And I also have router outlet here. Okay. So now this router outlet is for my child routes. Okay. If I go to the routing file, so these 3 are my parent routes. These 4 are my parent routes, and this is my child route inside the product path. Okay. So the path will become product/product ID. Okay. So if you see here, product/product ID. Okay. That is my path. So till here, this is my parent path, and this is my child route. So in order to render the child route, so in this product component, I should have a router outlet. Okay. So this is how basically the child routes will be rendered. In order to render the child routes, we have to have the router outlet in the parent component. Okay. If there is no parent component, then this will be rendered in your app component. So app component must have the router outlet. Because Angular will confuse, right? So if you have 2 router outlets in the app component, it will not know which router outlet to pick for rendering the components. So that's the reason. And also, if you have 2 router outlets, and in one router outlet you can render this component, but in the second router outlet it doesn't know which component to render. That is the reason the structure is maintained. Okay, this one will be rendered directly in the router outlet, only one router outlet which is in the app component. But whereas when you have children routes defined for a parent component, then that parent component must have a placeholder to render the child components. Okay, that's the example. And yeah, after that they'll not ask about this redirect to or the wildcard matches. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, this one is another important thing, the guards. How to protect routes. Okay, so we can protect routes by using the guards. Okay, so how can you create a guard? Using this syntax: ngg guard and your guard name, and this is authentication guard. And once authentication guard is created, basically you have to provide implementation for this interface can activate. Okay, there is a can activate method, and if it returns true, Angular will allow user to navigate to this path. If this returns false, then it will not allow user to navigate to that path. Okay, so in each path which you want to product, you should have this can activate param, and it is an array. It should take a list of guards. Okay, this is authentication guard. You can have role related guards. You can have some other XYZ guards also. Okay, you can have any number of guards, and all will be executed sequentially. If all returns true, then only Angular will redirect or like take that user to that path. Otherwise, it will not take. Okay, so you can basically just remember this picture. Okay, you're going from one place, that is one route, to another route. There is in between a guard. If it is satisfied, it will send you to that route. If it is not satisfied, or like if it returns false, then it will send you to another route. Okay, some error route, or it will show you some pop-up that like you don't have a proper permission to navigate to that route, some kind of pop-up or something, right? But still, that is a different route. Okay. So yeah, apart from this, I don't think there will be any other questions from routing.
Okay.
Okay. And yeah, we'll cover this Angular forms, I mean template driven forms and React forms both tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, let's cover modules today, okay? If we cover modules today and tomorrow if we cover these two topics, and then we'll be left with these three topics, then we can finish, okay? So coming to modules, they'll ask how many modules by default Angular creates for us, okay? So I think you know the answer for this question. So how many modules Angular creates when we create Angular application by default?
Root module.
And
By default, it will create root module, right?
it will create, yeah, no, number of modules. How many modules it will create?
Forms modules.
No. Those we import them only if we need them. Okay. In Angular project, Angular will create two routes for us. One is two modules. Okay. Now we are in modules topic. Right? Two modules. So one is app module. Okay. App module is your first module Angular will create for you. Okay. When you just use that ng create and our application name, it will create app module for you. That is the default thing. And second one is if you opt for roots, then it will create the root module. Okay. So when I'm talking modules, I'm talking about these decorators. Okay. These classes.
Yeah, I was telling I was actually mentioning that app module, but I think I was telling as root module.
Okay. Okay.
I was actually telling that app module is what it create. I don't know what I
So app
wanted
module
to.
is the like root module or godfather for Angular project. Okay. So and once that is done, then if you opt for roots, then you have the app the routing module. Okay. You can give any name also. It doesn't matter. But whenever you see this one, then that is a module.
Yes.
Okay. Whenever you see ng module decorator, then that is a module. Okay, so Angular will create by default two modules. If you opt for roots, it will create a routing module. Otherwise, there will be only one module, app module. And so they might ask, what is the metadata inside the app module? Metadata means whatever you put inside the decorator is called metadata. Okay, may not be for ng module, right? It can be for component, it can be for directive, injectable. So for all those, basically, if you are providing this object, okay, this is object starting here and ending here. So if you are providing this, means this is your metadata. So what is the metadata we are going to pass for a module? So one is declarations. Declarations always will have your custom building blocks, right? So custom components, custom directives, custom pipes. So all these you'll be defining here. This is a kind of a way we are telling Angular that, okay, these are part of you. Okay, that means this module. This belongs to you. Okay, or this belongs to this module. We are telling Angular that, okay, these are the components, directives, pipes, which belongs to this module. And these are the imports, like this module needs this module, browser module, app routing module, forms module, reactive forms, HTTP client, and it can have the third-party modules also. Okay, when this needs modules, then we are going to mention only those modules here, importing. Okay, or dependencies, you can call dependencies. Okay, and these are components, directives, pipes, part of this Angular. Okay, and these are all created by you. Okay, by the developer. But these all are it can be created by, if you are custom modules, you can import it to the app module. So apart from that, all these are created by part of either the Angular framework or third-party modules also. Okay, if there is a component library provided by some project or free open source project, then you can basically import that library here, right? So that can be your third-party module. For example, the ngx bootstrap we have, it will have all the components which bootstrap offers, right? So all the UI components. So you can import those here because those can be dependencies to your Angular module. And if you have any service you want to provide at module level, then you can use these providers. And this Bootstrap will have only for app module. Okay, apart from app module, if you create any other modules, this will not be there. Okay, this is basically we are creating a relation between the app module and app component. Why you have to use this here? Because if you go to the chain, right? So Angular starts from the main file. So main file we are bootstrapping it, right? So bootstrapping is a starting process. So bootstrapping we are telling go to app module. It will go to app module, and in app module we are telling go to app component using the bootstrap property. So it will go to app component. Now it will render the HTML there. Okay, so this one.
Mhm.
So that is the reason for all the default routes we are putting router outlet here, because first it will execute app component. Okay, so that is the flow. And how can you create a module?
In G, generate module name.
Yes, in the generate module name, and modules also can have routes inside the modules, just like app module will have the routes, right? So the same way you can have routes in child modules also. I mean the feature modules also. So module types. One is root module, second one is feature module. So root module is your app module, and feature module is your application feature module, which you created using that ngg module name. Okay, and creating done. Yeah, lazy loaded module. So what is the advantage of lazy loaded module is another question. So the advantage is it will reduce your bundle size. When you build your Angular application, if you don't use this lazy loaded modules, then all your feature modules, you can have 10 feature modules. The 10 feature modules will be part of a single file, and it will be very bigger. The file become very bigger, and in order to refresh your page or load your Angular application, it has to wait until that entire file is getting downloaded and executed. So that is a performance bottleneck. So in order to avoid that, we basically have to make them lazy loaded. So lazy loaded means it will not download when you load the page. Okay, so when you go to a specific area of your application, only that module will be loaded on demand. Okay, let's say you have students module, and you have faculty module, and you have administration module. So if administrator module logs into the application, and when he logs in, then it will not download your faculty module and student module. Okay, so when he clicks on faculty link or some link which is associated with the faculty module feature, then that time it will download that single file which has only components associated with the faculty module, components, directives, or anything associated with that faculty module, right? So but still it will not download the student module components and student module related code. When user goes to the student section of that application, that time it will download. Okay, so I'll demonstrate that using this page we have. Okay, let's go to the network. Now here, okay, let me refresh this again. So now how many files have downloaded? I download, let me just filter only the JavaScript files. Okay, so these are all the files it downloaded. Okay, it can be related to some analytics and some other files also added, but okay, only Angular related, right? So this runtime polyfiles main, and what else we have, the bundle, right? These are Angular related files. Now if I go to Angular, okay, let me clear this. Now because this single page application, page will not reload. Okay, So if I go to Angular, it just downloaded 2 files, common and some file which has some number, right? These 2 are related to my Angular module. Okay, Angular module will have the Angular content. So now I can go to anywhere in that. It will not download anything inside that. Now let me go back to the this one. Still home page. Still it is not downloading anything, because whenever I reload the page, it download all the required Angular related files. Now if I go back to Angular again, still it will not downloading anything, right? Because it is that module is already loaded here. Now let me demonstrate using some other thing. Okay, let me go to the TypeScript. Okay, TypeScript module is not loaded yet. All these are lazy loaded modules in my code also. HTML, CSS, Bootstrap. Now if I go to TypeScript, it will again download the TypeScript related module, right? The third file. If I go back to home again, it will not download again. If I go back to TypeScript again, it will not download because it already downloaded. Now if I go back to HTML, okay, it will download that module again, HTML module. Okay. Now if I go to HTML again, it will not download because it is already downloaded. Now if I go to Angular, it will not download because it already loaded first this one, right? Now let me go to TypeScript, it will not download. But if I go to CSS again, it will download one more file. Okay. So this is like on-demand loading. So all these files, right? It doesn't have to download when I just visit home page, or when I just visit Angular, or when I just visit home, HTML, right? So all this burden, like all around like 70 KB, right? 60 KB, something that KB, I don't have to download when my area of application which I'm working is different, and the modules I have, right? So it's a different, right? So I don't have to download all those modules when I'm using a part of the application. It will basically improve the performance of the application. Once it is downloaded, I can navigate any number of times. Okay, nothing is getting downloaded. But if I go to live project again, it will download that module. I think now I downloaded all the modules except the Bootstrap. So if I click on already downloaded modules, it will not try to download that module again because it already has that in the browser. Okay. Angular modules. Okay, that is the advantage of lazy loaded modules. So the lazy loaded modules basically improves the performance because you don't have to download entire application at once. And you can basically download your application gradually based on which features you're trying to use. Okay, the syntax between lazy loaded modules and eager loaded modules, right? This one.
Okay.
You have to use this one, load children, and you have to use this function syntax to import that module. So whenever you go to the items path in the browser, only that time this module will be loaded. Unless until you go to items, it will not download this module. Okay, when you just navigate to items folder or items path, then only this items module will be loaded by the browser. Okay, Angular will take care of that. Only the syntax matters. Okay, nothing else. In order to make a eager loading module to a lazy loaded module, you just have to use this syntax. That's it. So now and yeah, so how to basically create a common shared module, because most of the application will have at least some set of components, feature services which are shared, right? Which can be shared across multiple feature modules. So in those cases, what we have to do is you have to basically create a module named, it depends, like it can be common module or shared module, whatever module. You can give a name, and once that module is created, you can create components, and you can create pipes, and you can create directives, and you can put it in the declaration section of that module so that they'll be part of this module. Once that is done, you have to use the exports syntax. Okay, exports we have, right? So exports property to export components which you want to make it available for other modules. Okay, so I created a notification component here, and I want to make this one available for other modules also. So I'll put this here in the export section. Now I can use this shared module in my app module or any other module like this, okay, in the import section. Now what will happen, because you are using importing this shared module, now the notification component will be available to use in my app module. Okay, so now if I go to app component.html, and I can just say app-notification. Okay, now this will work not only in the app component, in any component inside the app module, right? You can have many components here. So in those components, you can directly use this app-notification component because you are exporting it from the shared module. Okay, now you can understand why we are importing these components here, the modules here, because this common module will have many components which are already exported like this. Okay, so even app routing module also, right? So app routing module also will export the router module. It is exporting here, right? In the app routing module, we have this, we are importing the router module from the Angular core, and we are initializing it with our routes, and then we are exporting that again to make it available across our application. Now if you go to the app component, sorry, app module, and here we are importing that module, app routing module. Okay, this app routing module, not this one. This app routing module we are importing in our app module. Okay, because we are importing here, whatever exported in this module, app routing module, will be available in this app module. So what we are exporting in here, we are exporting the router module initialized here, or like imported here. Okay, so that is the one thing. Like they'll ask how to make a component available to use in other modules. Okay, and routing, how routing is useful in, like how routing is used, right? So in order to import modules, basically it can be this your path, and you have to use the load children to import that module. So that this is lazy loading again. Okay, when you go to module -1 path, this module will be loaded, and when you go to this path, this module will be loaded on demand.
So in module, it's always lazy loading, or
No, it's not a lazy loading. In order to, there is no specific syntax for eager loading. So eager loading will happen when you just use that module inside your import section. In your import section, let's say you imported some module. You go to app module. In the app module import section, let's say I use this module, right? So this will be downloaded automatically when my page loads. It doesn't wait for that on-demand thing. Okay, let's say here I'm using the app routing module, right? So that app
one
routing.
second. I have to just give me 1 second.
Okay. Okay, so basically, in order to import a module, right? So when you import it here, it will be included part of your build. when you build the application, right? So it will be part of the bundle. But when you use that imports syntax inside the routing file, if when you use this syntax, then this module will be built separately. It will generate a single file, build file for this module. Okay, and the same way for this module also. Wherever Angular sees this syntax, it will build this module separately in separate file. Okay, because whenever user goes to this path, it will try to download that module file on demand. Okay, so when you include it in the import section, it will be downloaded by default. That is kind of eager loading.
Okay.
Okay, that is the difference. Eager loading and lazy loading. So yeah, I think we're done with the modules as well.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, yeah, then we'll cover rest of the topics in couple of sessions then.
Mhm.
Okay, then yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.